In November 2025, Vladimir Putin appeared at a ceremony in St. Petersburg. Russian President Vladimir Putin presides over a naval keel laying ceremony at the Baltic shipyard in St. Petersburg, showing the enormous hull of a nuclear-powered vessel under construction. He was laying the keel for the nuclear-powered icebreaker Stalingrad, 570 feet long, nuclear-powered, the most powerful icebreaker in the world's most powerful icebreaker fleet, Russia's 48th. 1 week later, Donald Trump announced that the United States would build 11 new icebreakers. "We have one. Russia has 48. "That's ridiculous," Trump said. "The race for the Arctic has already begun, and the race is not just about ships. It is about an ocean that was once frozen solid and is now melting open. An ocean that connects Asia to Europe across the shortest possible route. An ocean whose seabed contains an estimated 22% of all the world's undiscovered oil and gas reserves. An ocean whose surrounding land holds more than $1 trillion worth of critical minerals essential for electric vehicles, semiconductors, and advanced weapons. And an ocean whose geography is being transformed faster than any other place on Earth. The Arctic is warming 4 times faster than the global average. Arctic sea ice in September 2024 reached the lowest extent recorded since satellite measurements began in 1979. An article published yesterday in Modern Diplomacy confirmed what military planners across NATO, Russia, and China already know. The Arctic is now the next major strategic theater of the 21st century. The high north that was once described as a zone of low tension is becoming the opposite of both. Today, Where on Earth reveals the geography of the Arctic race, the routes, the resources, the military buildup, and why the melting ice is redrawing the global map in real time. Subscribe to Where on Earth and hit the bell. Now let us understand the geography of what the melting Arctic is revealing. A satellite map of the Arctic Ocean shows 3 potential shipping routes: the Northern Sea Route along Russia's coast, the Northwest Passage along Canada's coast, and the Transpolar Route crossing the Arctic Ocean directly. The Arctic Ocean covers approximately 14 million square kilometers. It sits at the geographic top of the world, surrounded by Russia to the south and east, Canada and the United States to the south, and West Norway, Greenland, and Iceland to the south. Until recently, it was covered year-round by sea ice. Thick multi-year ice building up over years and decades. Effectively impenetrable to commercial shipping, that is changing. Arctic sea ice has declined by approximately 12 to 13% per decade since satellite measurements began in 1979. The area covered by multi-year ice that is at least 5 years old has declined by approximately 90% between 1979 and 2018. The ice that remains is thinner and younger, forming in winter, melting in summer. And as the ice retreats, 3 geographic routes across the Arctic Ocean are becoming navigable for longer periods each year. The first route is the Northern Sea Route. The Northern Sea Route runs along Russia's Arctic coastline from the Bering Strait in the east to Murmansk in the northwest. Approximately 3,500 miles of passage that connects the Far East to Europe. This route can save up to 15 days of sailing time compared to the traditional route through the Suez Canal. Russia considers the Northern Sea Route its sovereign territory. It has built the infrastructure to support it. Russia has the world's largest icebreaker fleet, including 6 nuclear-powered icebreakers with more under construction. Russian Arctic ports, including Murmansk, Tiksi-Pavek, and Sabeta, have been developed or expanded in recent years. In 2025 alone, more than 100 transit voyages carrying approximately 3.2 million tons of cargo were recorded along the Northern Sea Route despite difficult ice conditions and Western sanctions on Russia. Arctic shipping traffic has grown by 40% overall, and the total distance sailed by ships in the Arctic has grown by 95% from 2013 to 2025. Russia's Arctic Policy 2035 aims to develop the Northern Sea Route into a globally competitive transport corridor handling 80 to 150 million tons of cargo per year by 2035. Today, 3.2 million tons. Target 150 million tons. The ambition is extraordinary, and it is being built on melting ice. The second route is the Northwest Passage. The Northwest Passage runs along the Arctic coast of Canada through the Canadian Arctic archipelago, connecting the Pacific Ocean near Alaska to the Atlantic Ocean near Greenland. Canada claims the Northwest Passage lies within its internal waters. The United States and most of the international community dispute this and argue it is an international strait. The Northwest Passage currently has almost no port infrastructure. Churchill on Hudson Bay is the only deepwater port with shelter and berthing facilities along the route. At present, the Northwest Passage is only reliably navigable by nuclear icebreakers. but scientists project that by 2035, parts of the Arctic, including sections of the Northwest Passage, will be free of ice during summer months. By mid-century, commercial shipping of various types may be able to transit the route. When that happens, the Northwest Passage becomes the most direct shipping route connecting Asia to the US East Coast. Canada is investing in Arctic surveillance port development and Coast Guard capacity to assert its sovereignty claims before commercial traffic makes the question more urgent. The third route is the most speculative and potentially the most significant: the transpolar route. The transpolar sea route would cross directly through the central Arctic Ocean from the Pacific to the Atlantic without following any coastline. No national territorial claims. Pure international waters. The deepest and widest passage. No restrictions on ship size. Currently only navigable by nuclear icebreakers. Projected to become seasonally accessible to ice-class commercial vessels later this century. If the transpolar route opens, it bypasses both the Russian-controlled Northern Sea Route and the Canadian-claimed Northwest Passage entirely. It would be the most direct connection between Asia and Europe in the history of shipping. Thousands of kilometers shorter than the Suez route, days faster than the Northern Sea Route, and subject to no national sovereign control. Now let us understand the mineral geography that makes the Arctic even more strategically valuable than its shipping routes. The Arctic seabed and surrounding land contain a concentration of natural resources that has no equal on Earth. The U.S. Geological Survey estimated that the Arctic holds approximately 22% of the world's undiscovered oil and gas resources. Approximately 90 billion barrels of oil, 670 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, 30% of the world's undiscovered natural gas reserves, all of it beneath the Arctic Ocean and its surrounding lands. Russia possesses the world's longest Arctic coastline. Almost 2 million square miles of Russian land is in the Arctic. Arctic Russia holds critical minerals estimated at $1.5 to $2 trillion. In value including diamonds, high-purity quartz nickel, cobalt copper, and rare earth elements. Norway's Svalbard archipelago contains coal deposits and sits at a geographic position of extraordinary strategic value at the entrance to the Arctic Ocean from the North Atlantic. Greenland's mineral wealth has already been covered in our Greenland video. Its Tanbreeze deposit holds an estimated 18% of the world's heavy rare earth reserves. The Trump administration described Greenland as a mandatory national security asset and stated that acquiring it was necessary to de-risk the American supply chain from Chinese monopoly control over rare earth processing. The Arctic holds the resources that the 21st century economy runs on: oil for the existing energy system, rare earths and critical minerals for the renewable energy system replacing it, and the shipping routes that connect the world's major economies. All three becoming accessible simultaneously as the ice melts. Now let us understand the military geography of the Arctic race. Russia reopened more than 50 former Soviet military bases across the Arctic and stationed Arctic specialized troops alongside advanced radar systems and missile batteries across the high north. Russia has the world's most powerful military presence in the Arctic by a significant margin. More bases than all NATO members combined. A vastly larger icebreaker fleet. The Kola Peninsula near Murmansk hosts the largest concentration of Russian nuclear forces outside Moscow. Ballistic missile submarines, the nuclear deterrent that would survive a first strike, operate from Arctic waters. The Northern Sea Route is Russia's economic lifeline. The Arctic is Russia's strategic perimeter, and Russia has been investing in both continuously despite the diversion of military resources to Ukraine. China is the Arctic's most ambitious outsider. China is not an Arctic nation. Its territory does not touch the Arctic Ocean. But China published a white paper in 2018 declaring itself a near-Arctic state, a category that does not exist in international law. China's Polar Silk Road strategy added to the Belt and Road Initiative commits Chinese investment to Arctic shipping infrastructure research stations and commercial development projects. China has been building icebreakers of its own. In late 2024, China and Russia conducted a joint Coast Guard exercise near the Bering Strait. The alignment between Moscow and Beijing in Arctic commercial development is creating a new geopolitical axis in the high north that Western planners did not anticipate. NATO has responded. Finland joined NATO in April 2023. Sweden joined NATO in March 2024. Their accession transformed NATO's Arctic geography. Russia now shares a land border with NATO members for approximately 1,300 kilometers along the Finnish-Russian border. NATO has direct geographic access to the Baltic Sea from Finland and to the Arctic from both Finland's and Norway's Arctic territories. The US has established a new airborne division in Alaska and based F-22 fighters at Elmendorf Air Force Base. The US Navy has increased patrols in the Arctic, sending some of its newest ships to operate off Norway. The United States has approximately 1 heavy icebreaker operational. Russia has 48 icebreakers with more under construction, including the Stalingrad. Trump's order for 11 new US icebreakers, if completed, would begin to address this deficit. The icebreaker gap is both a military and commercial vulnerability. Without icebreakers, the United States cannot assert sovereignty in the Northwest Passage, cannot escort commercial vessels, cannot conduct search and rescue in Arctic waters, cannot project military force in the high north. The Arctic geography is the geography where you need ice-breaking capability to operate, and that capability determines which nations can act and which nations can only watch. Now let us understand the legal geography of the Arctic race. The Arctic Ocean seabed is subject to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Under UNCLOS, each Arctic coastal nation can claim sovereignty over its continental shelf extending beyond the standard 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone if it can demonstrate that the shelf is a natural extension of its continental territory. Russia submitted an extended continental shelf claim in 2001, revised in 2015, that if accepted would give Russia sovereign rights over the mineral-rich Lomonosov Ridge running across the central Arctic Ocean toward Greenland. The Lomonosov Ridge is an underwater mountain chain that Russia argues is a natural extension of the Eurasian continent. Canada and Denmark also claim the Lomonosov Ridge as an extension of their continental shelves. 3 countries, 1 underwater ridge, all claiming it based on the same international legal framework. UNCLOS Commission determinations are binding, and they are irreversible. The legal geography of the Arctic is literally being locked in by Commission decisions that will determine which nations control the seabed for centuries. All of this happening at the same moment the ice is melting above it. The high north that was once remote enough to be diplomatically irrelevant is now so strategically important that every major decision is being made urgently before the ice geography crystallizes into a permanent legal and military geography. Russia is winning the icebreaker race. China is winning the Polar Silk Road investment race. The United States is winning the intelligence and surveillance race. And none of them is winning the diplomatic race to establish a governance framework before the competition becomes confrontation. The Arctic Council, the primary intergovernmental forum for Arctic affairs, suspended Russia's participation after the invasion of Ukraine. The diplomatic channel that managed Arctic competition since 1996 is broken. The ice is melting faster than any cooperative governance mechanism is replacing it. The race began without a rulebook, and 48 icebreakers are already in the water. Subscribe to Where on Earth for weekly geography that reveals the strategic forces reshaping the world right now. Hit the bell and drop your thoughts in the comments below, because the world looks very different when you understand the geography being revealed as the ice disappears.